It's Saturday afternoon. We're hanging out with Tony Hoagland, our friend from State Farm, at the Aquila Drive block party. It is thus named because that is where Tony Hoagland's State Farm agent is located, 11351 Aquila Drive in Champlin. And we have a tough act to follow. Tim Yoder, we just watched Ryan Shaver and Jordan Taylor do the Dibble Dabble show. I don't know what that means, but that's what they're calling their show.
They're calling their show.
The Dibble Dabble show.
All of that.
And they are really funny. They argued about cartoons, and it was real passion. It wasn't like fake arguments. They've known each other all their lives. They argued about cartoons. They argued about basketball. They argued about Ricky Rubio. And then they went to the bounce house and jumped around, and I think one of them broke their ankle and the other one fell out of the bounce house.
I think Jordan reestablished, not that he ever lost the title, but as the more athletic. After seeing him in the bounce house and Ryan going backwards and unathletically backwards, it was pretty clear that Jordan wins that title.
Yeah, I agree completely. So check out that show on TalkNorth.com. Obviously, this is the Viking Update show. This is our most popular show on the network. Thanks to Twill and the Edina Galleria. Thanks to Tony Hoagland, of course, who you'll hear from here in a bit. We'll chat about some of his charitable efforts as well as his business. And a new sponsor, SeatGeek. SeatGeek, I have their iPhone app. Why am I struggling with words today? I have their iPhone app, and it's just so easy to buy tickets with it. Buying tickets can be complicated and confusing. There is a better way to buy with SeatGeek. Smartest, easiest way to get tickets to every type of live event. Whether you're searching for a last-minute deal, planning a night out with friends, or need the perfect gift, SeatGeek helps you find the best seats at the best prices, fully guaranteed. It's nothing quite like being there in person. SeatGeek will get you closer to the action for great value. I'm going to be using SeatGeek to try to find Hamilton tickets because my wife wants to go to Hamilton. So that'll be the next thing I use it for.
Is that locally?
Yes, it's in Minneapolis. It's coming to Minneapolis. I can't afford it, but that's never stopped us before. I have the SeatGeek app on my phone. It's by far the easiest way I found to shop for tickets. I can be anywhere with just a few taps. I can instantly find seats. I actually just use SeatGeek to buy tickets to Hamilton. SeatGeek is designed to make your ticket buying experience easier than ever. SeatGeek saves you time and money by searching multiple ticket sites to compare prices and find amazing deals. To get the most bang for your buck, SeatGeek grades every ticket based on value to help you immediately identify the best seats that fit your budget. Plus, every purchase is fully guaranteed, so you can shop for tickets at SeatGeek with confidence. Make SeatGeek your go-to app for finding the best deals on every type of ticket, from sports and concerts to comedy and theater. Best of all, my listeners to the Talk North Network, TalkNorth.com, get $20 off their first SeatGeek purchase. I know I'm going to use that. So just download the SeatGeek app and enter promo code Vikings today. That's promo code Vikings today for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. I know I will be doing that. Let's get to the Vikings before we talk to Tony here. For the second year in a row, the big question is, what's the offensive line going to look like? I mean, that's the biggest variable.
And it might be third or fourth year in a row that's
true.
Come up. I mean, you talk about once they got rid of Matt Khalil, everybody kind of wondered, okay, what are they doing? Riley Reif comes in, and Mike Remmers came in and actually played a lot better than I thought he would play. But still, the questions on the offensive line persist. You got a big hole to fill that I think is very underrated with Joe Berger's retirement.
Yes.
And honestly, I think this training camp is going to be much like last training camp, where they go in there and they don't know yet who's going to be playing where exactly. My assumption is Pat Elflein comes back from injury, out all the offseason, and reassumes his position at center, Nick Easton at left guard, Riley Reif at left tackle. But that right side, I think, is going to be a moving component throughout training camp. When you look at the way that they did it in OTAs and minicamp was Remmers at right guard and Rashad Hill at right tackle. That was their most prevalent combination. That could be where they go. It could be, Remmers goes back out to right tackle, and you got Tom Compton as a possibility, Danny Isadora possibly. But, having one of those 5 spots on the offensive line unfilled isn't all that new to the Vikings, and they've been able to survive well enough without that.
And I will say that last year, and sometimes I'm just too reactive to the previous season. Last year, I was like, okay, this is a good team. The offensive line could absolutely ruin it again. And the offensive line was average to good, right?
They were better than I thought.
Yeah, they were much better than I thought.
I would say they were average, which was better than I thought they would be.
I'm not, for some reason, maybe, again, because I'm just too reactive to the previous season, I'm not as worried about the offensive line this year. Maybe it's because I really trust Elflein. Maybe it's because I now trust Remmers. But I just feel like they have depth. They're not going to be going out and getting somebody off the street to actually have to start an NFL game for them.
I wouldn't be completely convinced that doesn't happen, though. When you get down to the final cut downs, that they don't go.
So negative, too.
And yeah, that's my one negative on this team is the offensive line, just because I think there's so much uncertainty, and at all the other positions, you know what you're getting. So I wouldn't be completely shocked if there is a veteran guard that gets released that they could have for a couple million, that they wouldn't sign him. You know, when I look at what they've got on the offensive line, you've got Riley Reif and really a bunch of young people. Even Remmers I would consider still somewhat young in his career, at least as far as having that established trust starting position. Other than that, you kind of get guys that you go, well, like Elflein. I thought he had a pretty good season, but is he going to be able to do that again? I just like to see, and especially with the offensive line, after 3-4 years of starting, you know what you're getting. I don't think you necessarily do after 1 year, and you also don't know how much did they cover for guys, you know, keeping extra people in to help block. I mean, their running game was a lot better than I thought it would be after they lost Dalvin Cook. When that happened in week 4, I thought it was, you know, playoffs aren't going to be a real possibility, and they continued to do really well with McKinnon and then Latavius Murray at the end. So, you know, I just think last year when they went through training camp, they went through so many different combinations and the preseason that you really didn't know what they had going into the regular season. And all of a sudden they come out during the regular season and started a different line combination than they had throughout the preseason. So, you know, Pro Football Focus, take it for what you will. They ranked them, I think it was 27th overall offensive line. They actually dropped them.
They just did that to take off Zimmer, though.
Yeah, well, that doesn't take much. All you have to do is mention Pro Football Focus, and Zimmer is ticked off. But you know, Pro Football Focus, you know, their grades really are, to me, the least valuable thing that they do. I like looking at their tracking, how many times a cornerback got thrown at, things like that. And those aren't always completely accurate, but it gives you a really good feel for it. To drop them from, I think they had them like 20th or somewhere around in there, down to 27th, you know, I think they're probably better than that. If the offensive line can be average, it's going to be a really good team.
Here's my question. The variable we don't really talk about a lot about is the offensive line. When it went south under Norv Turner, he kind of, to me, just kind of threw his hands up like, you know what. Shermer, to me, found a way to make things work. He called the right kinds of plays for this kind of line. He played to their strengths, and he didn't feel like the guy who, if something went wrong, was to throw his hands up and just blame everything on injuries.
Right. I mean, if you look at the second half of 2016, after Norv Turner quit on them, Shermer came in there and really established that quick passing game.
Yep.
You know, trying to get it out quick to the wide receivers, pitching it out to running backs, and trying to do everything he could to help the offensive line. So if John DeFilippo does the same thing, they should be fine. But eventually, they are going to have to address the offensive line a little bit more diligently in free agency, in the draft. You know, they've done some of that with drafting Elflein last year and going after Riley Reif and Mike Remmers. But, you know, they still are really low on the overall, you know, the positional salary cap compared to other teams. I think it's like I think it's around 27th in the league that the Vikings are in spending on their offensive line, despite a big investment in Riley Reif. So it's kind of the next step. Eventually, they have to get away from drafting cornerback after cornerback after cornerback in the draft and say, we need to address the offensive line.
Thanks to Twill in the Edina Galleria, Scott Dayton's shop. I am wearing a Twill shirt today, and if if a shirt looks good on me, it can look good on anybody. That's the ultimate sales pitch here. So we're going to tell you more about Twill and all their great products here in a second. But we are at Tony Hoagland's today in Champlin. Again, 11351 Aquila Drive in Champlin. They're doing bounce houses. They're doing they had BMX bikers out. We'll be out here again next year, and we should kind of make it more of a party now that I have a good sense of what it's like out here. Again, Taylor and Shaver did their show here earlier as well. It's been a fun day out here, and they're doing a lot of good work. So, Tony, tell me about your charitable efforts. Tell me about your business. Tell me about this event.
Yeah, so the event, there's a charity in the businesses that is next to me called Hopes for Youth. It benefits kind of kids that are affected by drug abuse, kids that are affected by homelessness, all that kind of thing. It's actually a clothes store where you can go purchase clothes there, and the proceeds then go to the charity. So we're taking donations. The bounce house is free. The face painting, the hair color, all the fun games that are out and about, they're all free, and we just take some donations, and all the donations go back to the kids. So
I actually made a large donation at the bounce house because I was afraid that Taylor and Shaver broke it.
Yeah, it was definitely
it's for repairs, basically.
When Shaver and Taylor were in there, it was definitely rocking, maybe a little uncomfortably, since I'm the one that had purchased that and have been backing that, but we're good. So we're good now. We're good to go now. So yeah, yes, we have insurance on that. So that's a good thing, right?
As we've mentioned before on this network and on this show, I get my insurance through Tony, and so does Michael Russo on the network. We work very closely with Tony, both as an insurance agent and a sponsor of our programs. We really appreciate the hospitality and the support he's given to the network all along. I know you're also doing a promotion that's related to Jason Zucker.
Yep.
Jason Zucker, to get it exactly right.
Yeah, Jason Zucker. So any of the Talk North shows, if anybody calls and mentions the office and gives us a shot at their insurance business, we're going to donate $16 to Mr. and Mrs. Zucker's Give 16 campaign. And again, that some of you may have heard me on other shows, but that's got a personal note for us as well. So my youngest son, 3-year-old Jackson, it's actually his birthday today, just turned 3. He's got a very, very mild form of juvenile arthritis. For him, he's kind of in remission. It's not doesn't affect him that much. He can be a normal kid with just a leave and some stuff like that. But spending some time at the hospital when he was getting diagnosed at U of M Masonic Children's Hospital, just seeing what other kids go through. We saw the arthritis side of things, and there's kids that can't walk. There's kids that are in braces. You know, it's just a terrible, terrible deal for a lot of families, and we're fortunate where it's not that bad for us. But just seeing what, Mr. Zucker and Carly Zucker and even Kyle Rudolph do for that hospital, it's just huge for those kids. Like, those kids' mood changes immediately. So we figured we'd want to give back to that too, because we've seen some of that stuff in work. So anybody that mentions the Talk North or the Russo Shuhan or the Viking Update podcast will donate $16 to the Give 16 campaign. So
awesome. Great stuff. Well, this is a cool event, and I appreciate that you're always thinking of ways to help charities. We appreciate that on this network as well. And if anybody wants to work with Tony, the easiest way, the way I always do it when I'm looking for his address, Google Tony, Hoaglund, and he'll pop right up.
Yeah, and we appreciate you guys coming out today. This has been a lot of fun.
It's been fun. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
There's Tim just grabs the microphone back from me. He's like, he just can't stand not talking for a few minutes. Good Lord.
We're going to have a bounce off later in the bounce house. Is that right?
No fake hips allowed in the bounce house.
I will say,
now I'm out.
I would say I will be getting more insurance before I go into the bounce house because I'm old. If you haven't figured it out, I'm old. Hey, a corollary to the offensive line stuff we've been talking about, Kirk Cousins did take 41 sacks last year. Do you think that was him playing behind a bad offensive line? Is that him holding the ball? How's that going to translate here?
I think some of it has to do with an offensive line that wasn't as good. You wonder how much confidence he had in his receivers. It wasn't exactly the receiving core that the Vikings have with Thielen and Diggs and Rudolph. And I don't think he had a really good running game, which he should have with the Vikings as long as Dalvin Cook comes back 100%. So all of that, I think, is going to help him. But I will say this. I also think that, Case Keenum did a marvelous job of escaping pressure last year.
Yeah, he did.
He ended up running around a lot, ducking under sacks, and working it